This Tuesday, April 2nd, Betting Picks edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Cut. Cut is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's US-based and available in 40 states. Head to cut.com, that's KUTT.com, and use promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Play their fantasy pick'em for a chance to win 100x in NBA, MLB, NHL, college basketball, and more. Sign up today using promo code NBA SGPN to get a 100% deposit match. And we're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. Welcome, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Tuesday, April the 2nd, currently 11:07 on the East Coast. I'm your host, Munaf Manji, here to get into the NBA card for the Tuesday night schedule. We'll briefly recap what we saw yesterday in the association. Joining me here to help me break everything down, you guys know him as the voice of the Tennis Gambling Podcast, the MLB Gambling Podcast, the NFL, WNBA, right around the corner, and of course here on the NBA Gambling Podcast, it's Scott Studio Reichel. Scott, what's going on, my man? How you doing this Tuesday morning?
Yeah, doing pretty well. Overall, wasn't really paying much attention to the NBA last night at the time because there were a lot of women's college games that I was paying attention to, which turned out to be solid. Caitlin Clark, really good at basketball. Breaking news. But still, pretty fun night last night. Hockey as well, baseball. My Yankees look pretty good, so I can't complain so far. And you had a no-hitter. So pretty busy day for us in baseball yesterday.
Yeah, turned out to be a nice baseball day. NBA. I know you were talking offline. I was kind of venting to you. It wasn't a great day for me. I had the under in the Pelicans and the Suns game, scoring 74 points. In the first quarter, pretty much wrapped it up. I mean, they were pretty, I think, what I expected the rest of the way. But when you have one quarter where you score that many points, it just kind of derails your under because they only scored 54 in the second, they had 65 in the third quarter, but then they only scored 42 in the fourth quarter there. But yeah, that one hurt a little bit. And then speaking of hurt, Jalen Duren left the game in the first quarter with was apparently a tooth injury that was classified as. Did not return, so I mean, it must have been something significant for him. I'll try to see if I can find a video or something, but I gave out his rebounding ladder. Obviously, didn't get there because he left the game in the first quarter, but hope to bounce back here on the Tuesday night schedule. A lot of great games here on the Tuesday night card, especially with playoff implications, so we'll dive into that here in a minute. But Scott, anything else? I mean, I know I wasn't paying attention much to the NBA last night either because, like you mentioned, baseball was on and women's college basketball was on as well. Pretty, I think Terrell and I did pretty good handicapping the card. Obviously, we took Charlotte yesterday. Portland, you got to give them a lot of credit for the way they were able to bounce back after getting embarrassed by 60 points at the hands of the Miami Heat and came into this game, I believe, as a 16-point underdog and almost won this game outright against the Orlando Magic, but Orlando pulled it out 104-103 in that game. We just talked about the Phoenix game. Pacers taking care of business against the Nets. Memphis going to Detroit and get the 2-point victory. That one came down to the wire as well. And Boston wins the game, but they don't cover against the Charlotte Hornets here. But yeah, pretty standard night as far as NBA. Anything that stuck out to you as far as NBA?
Well, there were only two competitive games. One involved the Pistons, so nobody knew what was actually happening. And the other involved Portland, which you mentioned, which Orlando barely held on to. I like Orlando in general. We'll see if they win the division or not. They were my preseason pick at a pretty decent price at like 6 or 7 to 1. They're still really bad offensively late in games. And that's why I have a hard time trusting this team to actually win a playoff series when push comes to shove. They might be the playoff under team. You just blindly take their unders in the games and it should work out well. But I like Orlando. They really still have issues scoring in crunch time. And that was evident in the game last night. So we'll see if that's going to come back to bite them in the playoffs. Spoiler, probably will. So I'm going to mention that. Boston won, didn't cover. Pretty straightforward win against Charlotte. Memphis won. I know Terrell's in shambles because he has the Pistons to not have the worst record in the league. He's got the Wizards, and that was a game they kind of needed to have. So that's a bit unfortunate. My Nets are a joke, so nothing to add there. And yeah, Booker at 52. So I feel like that's a good place to start there. Booker was phenomenal. Seems like he owns the Pelicans. I thought Nurkic was great last night. He had 19 points, 19 rebounds. The Pelicans had no answers for him at all during the course of the game. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was kind of my takeaway from the high-profile game of the night, because Atlanta won, Bulls clinched a play-in spot. I don't really care one way or another. But the point is, the Suns had a nice win they kind of needed to have against the Pelicans. They're still trying to stay out of the play-in, and they have a really tough schedule down the stretch. So a nice road win there against New Orleans. Yeah, Booker 52, Nurkic 19 and 19. I know Zion's had a good year scoring-wise. The guy just doesn't rebound the ball, and it's extremely annoying to watch. 2 rebounds? 2? You played 30 minutes, you had 2 rebounds? Come on, Zion. Like, I know you're not a great rebounder. You're averaging 5.8 rebounds per game. But damn, man, you got to at least try to box somebody out. Because Nurkic killed the entire team last night.
Zion's in that category of Jaren Jackson Jr. He's a better rebounder than him. We know that he can get the rebound,
it's
but
an argument.
Jackson,
Jaren's taller, so he should be a better rebounder than Zion, but there's just a lack of overall focus when it comes to rebounding. And now that Valanciunas is playing less, you don't have an automatic 12, 15 rebound per game guy anymore, because you're choosing to prioritize defense over Valanciunas, rightfully so. It means everybody else has to buy in rebounding-wise, and Zion never buys in. But anyway, to go back to your point.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that again. It's there's guys like you mentioned, the height of Jaren Jackson Jr. that we expect to at least be like a rebounder averaging 8 per night, but it just doesn't get there. But again, he is a great defensive player as well. So, sometimes you just can't do it all, as a big man. But a lot of great games here tonight. Scott, in the association, some very intriguing matchups when it comes to playoff seeding, especially in the Western Conference. I think a lot of those are going to be on the West Coast here tonight in the late part of the evening. So I think a lot of us will be staying up here tonight to watch those games. But before we dive into the card here for tonight, here, Scott, let me tell everyone about here. Look, NBA Gambling Podcast, the season is winding down, right? We're about 7-8 games left for each team. Then we'll get into the play-in tournament, and we will have less games to bet on. But you know what did start? The MLB season. And if you're not an MLB season or MLB better or baseball better, come join us on the MLB Gambling Podcast. Myself, Scott, Malcolm, Dylan, and Lante.
The
Yankees. Yeah, the Yankees are undefeated. The Marlins are 0-5. Scott's going to be sweating here tonight because he already gave out. This might be the history. This is why the MLB Gambling Podcast is so great, because within the first 6 games of the regular season, this might be the earliest bet that Scott and the MLB Gambling Podcast may have cashed, is that he gave out the Miami Marlins to have a 6-game losing streak at any part of the season. Well, if you've been paying attention, the Marlins have already lost their first 5 games, so they're 0-5.
That was my best bet for the NL East, by the way. That was my best bet I gave out.
Not just a bet, but a best bet for the NL East. So the sweats are going to be on here tonight for Scott. And I know Malcolm was mentioning that when we did the show yesterday, or I should say for today's games. So again, a great time. Come join us on the MLB Gambling Podcast. If you haven't already subscribed to the MLB Gambling Podcast, we're getting closer to 1,000 subscribers, and we can't do it without you. So come join us on the MLB Gambling Podcast. All right, Scott, let's get into the games here for tonight in the association. The first one we'll kick it off is going to be the LA Lakers. They are in Toronto here tonight to take on the Toronto Raptors. We'll see if Drake is in attendance for this game because it's the Lakers. We'll see. Let's get over to the injury report for both of these teams, or let me read the lines first. But the Lakers are a 12-point favorite right now on the road here against Toronto with a total of 233. Looking at the injury report, of course, the two names that are always on there, LeBron and AD, are questionable. Jackson Hayes is probable. Players that are out are going to be Jalen Hood-Schifino, Cam Reddish, Jared Vanderbilt, Gabe Vincent, and Christian Wood. So some depth pieces that are going to be out for the Lakers. For the Toronto Raptors, Ochai Abachi is going to be out. Scotty Barnes is out. Chris Boucher is out. Jakob Hurtle continues to be out. Jonte Porter is out. Of course, we know why. And then Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett are both probable. I know they've missed a handful of games over the course of the last couple of weeks there, but they are probable in this game. And also, Gary Trent Jr. is going to be out for this game here as well. I believe this is the last game for the Lakers as their West Coast road trip here. Let me see if I can find that information here, Scott. While you
They
give
play the
me...
Wizards after this on the road. It's actually the front end of a back-to-back.
Oh, okay. All right. So, yeah, something to keep in mind, and then we'll see.
That's a funny back-to-back, though. The Raptors and the Wizards back-to-back. Okay, that's a fun time. All right.
Yes. So, yeah, so two more games left on their road trip here, and then they could close out a really good road trip here if they're able to take care of business against two of the worst teams in the association this season. But 12 is the number right now here, Scott. What do you think?
So, historically speaking, Toronto owns this team, but Toronto used to be good at basketball.
Yeah.
Remember that? The good old days when they used to be good at basketball? I can't take Toronto. This team sucks. This is the definition of a tank job. And you might be wondering why Toronto basically punted on whatever the first half of their season was. It's because I believe their draft pick is top 6 protected. So they were trying to intentionally punt the thing. As of right now, they're currently in 6th to last. So as of right now, it is top 6 protected. So we'll see what happens. But Toronto decided to wave the flag, and that's why when Terrell and I did the Eastern Conference win total midseason episode, my best bet was Orlando over because they had the easiest schedule in the league. My second best bet was Toronto under because I thought Toronto was going to be a laughingstock in the back half of the year, and they have been. They haven't even been close. I feel like when you're looking at what the Raptors are doing right now, they have fully put all of their eggs into a top 6 protected draft pick because they know that they had no shot of actually making the play-in. And you could argue it's the right decision. On the other hand, it's one of the worst draft classes of all time. So you can argue they were actually better off potentially letting them lose the pick this year and keeping the pick next year because that's how these things work. If you get a protected pick and you actually make it, it gets transferred over to next year. The draft class is horrible. So you figure Toronto maybe should have just let them potentially get the pick instead. But either way, long story short, I'm taking the Lakers. I just can't take the Raptors right now. This team's terrible. You mentioned they might get a couple guys back. I get it. But the Lakers are playing better basketball recently. It's not a look ahead when you're playing the Wizards. So I don't think that that's going to be a dangerous spot for them. Give me the Lakers here by 20 and change. I just don't know what the Raptors are supposed to do. I mean, in general, you're looking at assuming the Lakers play everybody, which is always an if because LeBron and AD are questionable. Who are they going to guard? LeBron had 40 last game against the Nets. I know he hit 9 threes. That won't happen again. But Toronto doesn't have any front court depth. Jonte was gambling. Kelly Olynyk can't stop anybody. They have no overall defense in the front court. What are you going to do with Anthony Davis? What are you going to do with LeBron? You have no answers for anybody. I got to go with the Lakers here. There's no way for me to take Toronto based on what I've seen for the last month.
Yeah, and again, this might be an early best bet territory for me. It's probably either the full game over in this game or the Lakers team total to go over because for all the reasons that you just mentioned there. It is at 123.5. Seems a little high, but again, I want to see the injury report because like you mentioned, it's a great point that they are on the front end of a back-to-back. So it could be meaning one of two things, that one of those guys sits here tonight or they just come out and take care of business within the first 3 quarters. And those starters, especially LeBron and AD, don't have to play a lot of minutes, if at all, in the fourth quarter. But again, if you just take a look at what a number of points that the Raptors have given up over the past several games. So they gave up 123 to the Thunder, 112 to the Wizards, 96 against the Nets. Okay. And then they gave up 145 to the Knicks and 135 in their last game to the Sixers. So now you have this LeBron and AD led team coming into your building here tonight that you're not playing a lick of defense. So I do think that either the team total over is the right side for the Lakers or the full game over. Also, I know we're talking about I transition to the total here, but yeah, I'm with you. I would take the Lakers here minus the 12. I don't trust this Toronto Raptors team to be competitive or play any type of defense in this game because again, you take a look at the numbers over the last 5 games for the Toronto Raptors defensively. They're bottom in the league in most of those defensive categories. And again, like you mentioned, when you have AD coming in, you have LeBron coming in, these guys are going to get whatever they want inside the paint. So I think that'll be easy pickings for this Lakers team. Toronto's second worst defensive rated team, right down there with the Charlotte Hornets. And they have a net rating of minus 18.5 over the last 5 games, which is the league worst. So all over the Lakers here, all over the Lakers team total over. Casey had a stat and a trend here as well. Since November 2023, Lakers games are 7-0 to the over when playing teams with a 3+ game losing streak. So over 232.5. So yeah, kind of ties into that. They're just, again, playing a team that plays bad defense here. So over for me. Do you have any thoughts on the total here, Scott?
Yeah, I'm on the over. You mentioned everything. The Lakers might score 130 in this game. No one would be surprised. Toronto's not even trying on defense.
Yeah.
You can tell from just the overall effort level, it's not there. Not just to mention a lack of talent. Your rim protector cannot be Kelly Olynyk. That's not going to go well. They're just not going to go well. So have fun with Anthony Davis. Have fun with LeBron. And they're probably going to score, like 60, 70 points in the paint? I mean, I don't know how the Raptors are going to stop anybody. The Lakers might get 30-plus free throws in this game. I see them scoring 130 and change.
Yeah. And again, these are 2 games to finish out this road trip that they want to, win because they go back home. That first game back after a long road trip is always a tough one. They do have 2 games off in between those 2 games, but it'll be the Cavs, it'll be the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they'll wrap up the season against the Golden State Warriors. So right now, they're pretty much in that play-in tournament bracket if you look at the standings. But again, these are games that you just want to take care of because they're against the worst teams in the Eastern Conference and in general the entire NBA. And right now, the Lakers have a 1.5 game lead over the against the Golden State Warriors. They're 1.5 game back behind the Sacramento Kings, so they could maybe get into that 8 spot. We'll talk about the Kings here later because they do play the Clippers in a huge matchup. So look out for that. Player props in this game here, Scott. Anything you like?
I mean, it's about how many minutes you think the Lakers are actually going to play their starters for. Because if they go up a ton, I don't know how much they're going to play. I think Olynyk props are interesting because he's proven he's kind of blowout proof because they're just going to leave him out there to die. If he gets into foul trouble, then that's going to be unfortunate. But I have to at least mention Olynyk turnovers. It's at 2.5 minus 120. He's had 3+ turnovers in 9 straight games. 9. I got to go with the over. The assists are also there for Olynyk, so if you want to go for the 5.5, he's had at least 8 assists in 4 straight games. So maybe if you want to make a case that Toronto can actually score, maybe the Lakers take their foot off the gas. Olynyk, though, the point is he gets the ball in his hands a lot. They try to give him a point forward role based on the last couple of weeks, I'd say. I don't mind Olynyk assists over and turnovers over. And even in blowouts, he's been playing a bunch of minutes. So the concern is foul trouble. But I do like the over there, especially for Olynyk assists. I think 5.5 is like plus 118, which is a very good deal when he's had 8+ once again in 4 straight. So I like the over there for both Olynyk props. Trying to think what else I want. I see people mentioning Rui. I don't mind it. I'm trying to think of, do I think LeBron can have a triple-double today? Do I like D'Angelo assists? I'm not even sure how many minutes RJ Barrett's going to play. Yeah, I think I basically covered it. I think I'm mostly looking at Olynyk stuff. And maybe if you want to go for an 80 points and rebounds and you just hope he doesn't get benched in the third quarter, you can go for it. I don't mind Rui, but once again, I think Olynyk's numbers are a bit off based on usage and based on being blowout proof. So I'll look for Olynyk in this game.
Yeah, again, it's tough, like you mentioned, right? Because the spread is at 12.5. And then if the Lakers are up by 20+ points at the end of fourth quarter, maybe you see the starters come in for a couple minutes. And then they just end up sitting because, like you mentioned, that it is a front end of a back-to-back for the Lakers. So That's always a tough part. Austin Reeves' assist is intriguing to me. It is at 5.5. It has a little bit of juice at -135, but he's averaging 8.2 assists over his last 5 games. He's had at least 6 assists in 5 straight games, back-to-back games of 6 assists. But prior to that, he had 11 against the Memphis Grizzlies, 10 against Milwaukee Bucks. I was about to say Milwaukee Brewers, Milwaukee Bucks, and then against the Indiana Pacers again. I know those 2 games were without one of LeBron and AD, but he's getting the minutes played, and I think that he may be a little bit blowout proof as well. It's a possibility because again, they're already without a lot of depth pieces. Are the Lakers like the guys that I talked about? They're without Reddish, Jared Vanderbilt, Gabe Vincent, who did come back against the Brooklyn Nets, and then Christian Wood as well. So, and if they end up sitting LeBron, AD, D'Lo in that fourth quarter, by default, I think Austin Reeves is still going to have to be out there playing minutes because of the lack of bodies here. So over 5.5 for Austin Reeves as far as assists. I really do like that. He did have 7 assists in the matchup earlier this season against the Toronto Raptors. That was the one I was looking at. Anything else for this game?
No, I thought about Barrett assist potentially, but I still don't actually know how many minutes he's going to play in this game, so I really can't fully guess or estimate what I think his role on this team is going to be immediately. We'll see. Yeah. As for Gabe Vincent, I think he's fine. I mean, he's Kendrick Nunn 2.0 for the Lakers, so that's not going to do them any good. But he was good in the playoffs last year. That counts. It's fine.
Yeah, maybe turns it up a little bit in the playoffs.
I was more of a Caleb Martin guy last year, to be honest, but Vincent didn't bother me.
Yeah. All right. Before we get over to the next game on the schedule, let me tell everyone about our friends over at Cut. Cut is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's US-based and available in 40 states. Peer-to-peer social betting is a new and better way to bet. Bet directly against your friends or other users on sports, politics, pop culture, other events with verifiable outcomes, and tons of fun social features that give it a feel of a betting social network. Cut offers lower VIG and fully customizable odds, and you can create your own bets. That's the best part. Cut handles the payment side of things, so you never have to chase anyone down for money. Social features include group chats, betting leaderboards, head-to-head history, user profiles, fan groups, and more. They also have a rewards program. You can get cash back every single time you bet against your friends or other users. Download the Cut app today in the App Store or go to cut.com. That's KUTT, and use promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. Play their pick'em game. Pick whether your favorite players will have a higher or lower stat total in this week's games for a chance to win big. You can win up to 100 times your money in a single night. Stay tuned at the end of the episode. Scott and I will put together our Underdog Fantasy entry here for tonight. Hopefully, we can make it back-to-back Tuesdays of cashing an Underdog Fantasy entry. Sign up today with promo code NBA SGPN and get your first deposit doubled up to $100 as well as an instant pick'em special. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com and find them in the App Store. And don't forget to register with our promo code NBA SGPN to get your first deposit doubled up to $100 as well as an instant pick'em special. Must be 18 years or older and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit www.ncpgambling.org. All right, Scott, let's get over to the next game on the schedule. That is going to be the Milwaukee Bucks. They are in the nation's capital to take on the Wizards here. Wizards are catching 13 points at home with a total of 227.5. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, start here with the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis is probable. Marjon Beauchamp is probable. Patrick Beverley is probable. And Chris Middleton is probable. Guys that are out is going to be Damian Lillard and Jalen Galloway. So no Dame here tonight for the Bucks. For the Wizards, so no Landry Shamet, no Kyle Kuzma, and no Titus Jones, no Bilal Coulibaly, and guys that are questionable are Jared Butler and Rashawn Holmes. I am going to pull up another website here just to start announcing the starters for some of these teams because it's just feels easier to do it that way. But nonetheless, this Wizards team is decimated by injuries. Bucks laying 13 here, Scott, against the Wizards.
Yeah, I think I'm going to lean Wizards in this one. I don't know if I feel great about it, but With Lillard being out, yes, I've given Lillard crap this season. I think rightfully so, but he's still one of the most valuable players on their team. Not the guy I used to be, but still. The Wizards have been competitive against this team. They faced off twice this season. First one, the Wizards did lose by 13. They were actually leading halfway through that fourth quarter. Last game they faced off, both games were actually in November, and the Bucks did win by 3 at home. It's a lot of points to be laying when Dame's not playing, and I just think that looking at this overall line, is Washington good? No. But I do think they can remain competitive against the Bucks team that we know has been up and down ever since Doc Rivers got there. The Bucks could kill this team, but they could also sleepwalk it and let Washington hang around. I'm going to lean to the Wizards. I just think they could hang in there. I'm going to lean over in this game. I see a bunch of points, but I'm going to lean to the Wizards. The Bucks offensively, maybe they'll be a little bit out of sorts without Dame. So I will lean to the over, and I'll lean to the Wizards to cover.
Yeah, I just don't trust this Bucks team. I mean, we saw it. I know it was the Lakers, right? They had a double-digit lead in both of their matchups. I know we're comparing Lakers to the Wizards, but it's just the principle that it feels like it's something similar to the Celtics, something similar to the Pelicans. That these are pretty good first half teams, but for whatever reason, in the second half, they either don't keep their foot on the gas and just kind of let up and let the other teams back in. And that might be a case in this game here as well. So I think if you like the Bucks, maybe just take them in the first half. I think they come out and play really well, and they absolutely dominate the boards. I think the Bucks in this game. We'll talk about player props in a minute here, but I think this is a spot in the first half for the Bucks. I do agree about you. Like the full game here, the plus 13. This could be a sneaky backdoor cover for the Washington Wizards. So yeah, Wizards with you. First half Bucks would be a look for me. Total 227. You said you like the over in this game, Scott?
I kind of have to. Just looking at the first 2 meetings this season, once again, back in November, they had a different coach, but games landed 271 and 259. I can't look at an under for this. The Wizards play no defense. Milwaukee plays defense half the time. Yeah, give me the over. It would not shock me if maybe Giannis goes for 40 or 50 in this game and Milwaukee drops 125, 130. A couple ways to get there, but I'm going to lean to the over.
The Wizards are number 7 in defensive rating over their last 5 games, but you got to take a look at who they've played. So, Raptors, Bulls, Nets, Pistons, Heat. Not the greatest offensive teams in the league when you want to take a look at that, but now is where they're going to get tested because they have the Bucks, and then, like you mentioned, they have the Lakers tomorrow night. Two of the better offenses we can say. They have the Blazers, the Raptors, and the Wolves to close out the season. So, yeah, Bucks team total over or full game over as well. I think I'll probably go with a Bucks team total. I just think they, even without Dame, I think, like you mentioned, Giannis can go bananas here tonight.
What's the number? 120? 120 and a half?
Let's see. If it's anything.
I mean, I expect the Bucks to walk into 125. So
yeah, 120 and a half is the number.
Yeah. I like the over.
Yeah. All right. So that's for the total. What about player props? You mentioned Giannis. Anybody else that sticks out to you?
Well, Giannis's points prop is set at a casual 34 and a half. Triple doubles at plus 490, which I think is realistic, but I got to figure out which angle I actually want. I might just want Giannis points, to be honest. I want to make a case for triple double, but with the Wizards having absolutely no rim protection at all, I just expect Giannis to get to whatever spot he wants, and I expect him to get to the free throw line 20-plus times in this game. Now, I don't know how many he's going to make. He might end up going 10 of 20, and this bet goes up in flames, but I have to at least mention the points because I don't know what the Wizards are supposed to do. What do you have, Bagley in the middle? Like, have fun. I think Giannis is going to get a free run to the lane every time.
Yeah, Bagley's the starting center here today for the Wizards. Giannis had 2 triple doubles. No, he's had 1 triple double in 2022. He had 1 last season. So back-to-back seasons, he's put together a triple double. Maybe that happens tonight, even without Damian Lillard. That only helps his cause to get the assists here. So, I mean, he had a 55-point game last year, 42 earlier this season, 31, and I think
he can pick whatever stat line he wants. I mean, if you want to go for PR, I don't even mind that. He might end up walking into 35, 15, and 10. He can pick whatever stat line he wants. Washington can't stop him.
I'm laughing because the game back on November 20th, where he had 42 points, he was 20 of 23 from the floor. He only missed 3 shots.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was all inside the paint where he probably missed some bunny. So, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely 100% correct. And I've been fading the Wizards front court defense and looking at guys that are starting centers, I should say, against the Wizards on their rebounding props. And I think Giannis here tonight, if you want to go points and rebounds, or if you want to just go for his rebounds here tonight as well, it's at 13.5 at even money. He could walk into 15 plus here tonight easily against his Wizards team. Middleton assist without Damian Lillard may be worth a look. I don't think Patrick Beverley is really going to be that guy that's going to be racking up the assists. He is slated as a starting point guard, but um, just want to see what Beverley has done over the past couple games here. So he did have 5 assists against Atlanta. I think that was a game where Dame did not play. But Chris Middleton assist, it's at 6.5 at plus 105. That'd be something I'll be interested in. Other than that, I mean, we went at volumes about Giannis here, but Chris Middleton assist, that's pretty much it. You have anything else for player props?
You mentioned Middleton. I don't mind that angle. Trying to think if there's anything else I'm really tempted by for this game. No, I don't really have much. I don't think Beverly's going to do much in the actual starting lineup. I see Beverly's points are at 10.5. That feels a bit high to me. I don't know how many shots Beverly's actually going to take in this game.
Yeah.
So I'm going to lean to the under on Beverly 10.5. Gone under 9 of the last 10 games, but then again, all those numbers are skewed because those are with him coming off the bench. He had 18 points last game against Atlanta. In that game, he went 6 of 10. So I don't see that happening again. There's just not enough shot attempts. I just think that Beverly is going to be letting Giannis get to the lane. Middleton might handle pick and roll responsibilities with Giannis. What's Beverly supposed to do? Is he going to be like a stand-up like shooter in the corner? I don't know what his role is going to be. So I'll lean to Beverly under 10.5 points because I don't know how many shots he's going to take.
And that was what I was going to mention. That you would maybe, if you want to play an over for Beverly, maybe just take a look at taking his 3-pointers over, because most of his shots, like you mentioned, he's gonna have to stand in the corner and take the 3-pointer. And that's 1.5 at plus 115 on DraftKings right now, because you just kind of go through his game log over the last 5 games. The 10 shots that he took against Atlanta, 5 of those came from the 3-point line. He made 2 of them. He took 4 shots against the Pelicans. 3 of those were from the 3-point line. 2 against the OKC Thunder. 1 was from the 3-point line. 3 of the 4 he took against the Nets from the 3-point line. 2 of the 5 he took against Boston was from the 3-point line. So I think the better bet would be, if you do want to bet the over, just take the over 1.5 threes. He'll get 6 points if he makes both, and you'd have some nice plus odds, but he's just not shooting it very well right now at all. He's at 21.4% over the past 5 games. So that's a good call on at least taking his full game point total to go under the 10.5. Anything else for this game?
No. I think we basically covered it.
All right, next game on the board, we've got the New York Knicks. They are in Madison, or they are hosting, they're headed to South Beach in this game. Knicks headed to Miami to take on the Heat. Heat are currently laying 3 points at home here with a total of 206.5. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, let's start here with the New York Knicks. No OG Anunoby, no Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson is questionable. For the Miami Heat, Tyler Hero is out, Josh Richardson is out. And then 4 guys that have probable is Nikola Jovic, Caleb Martin, Duncan Robinson, and Terry Rozier, all probable here tonight against the New York Knicks. Knicks coming off of probably their worst defensive performance of the season in their last game against the Oklahoma City Thunder, where they gave up 100 and I'm sorry, that was the second worst. Sorry, I'm talking about the Spurs game where they gave up 130 in that game to the Spurs, and then they came back and gave up 113 to the New York Knicks in a losing effort in a game where Jalen Brunson scored 60. What was that? Was that the game against the Spurs? He scored 60 something?
Scored 61 and they lost because Wemby had 40, 20,
and 20.
7, I think.
Yeah. But now they head to the road here. Catching 3 points are the New York Knicks here. Scott, what are you thinking about this game?
So Miami's been a team that we expected to really not care much for the regular season, and what do you know, they might be a playing team again. But the Knicks are 2-0 in the head-to-head this season, and I do think even though the Heat have played better, they beat Portland and they beat Washington. Congrats. I mean, beating any team by 60 is impressive anyway, but still. Yeah. The Knicks have lost 2 straight. Lost to the Thunder by that heartbreaking game winner by Shea, and they lost to the Spurs in a game they probably should have won, but they were getting killed early. They kind of just no-showed that on the road. I don't want to lay 3.5 with Miami. I just feel like this is a game that should come down to the wire. The Knicks are 2-0 in the head-to-head. Why would I want to lay 3.5 here? And between two teams that I think are pretty even, you could argue the Knicks. I mean, with the injuries, you could argue that these teams are pretty even. When healthy, I think the Knicks are better because Randall gives them some scoring. They don't have that right now. OG's injured again. What else is new? Are we on the same page? Because I feel like the Knicks are arguably the better team, and they're getting 3.5, and this game should, based on paper, come down to the wire.
Yeah. It just kind of makes me nervous. Well, so the Knicks, I'll say this, since the All-Star break, 4-1 straight up, 4-1 against the spread when they're catching points on the road. Um, and you take a look at the standings right now in the Eastern Conference. So they're pretty much either going to end up anywhere from the third seed or the fifth seed. And Miami right now is probably doing their best to get out of that play-in tournament bracket. But I don't think for Miami it matters because I mean we saw last season that they were in that play-in tournament bracket and they beat what was it, Milwaukee, the number one seed last season in the first round, and then made their run to the NBA Finals. So I don't think it really matters for them. I think that this is a game for the Knicks to kind of get this 2-game losing streak out of their, that sour taste out of the mouth because it was against one of the worst teams in the NBA where they gave up 130 points on the Spurs, and then they lost on like you mentioned, a game-winning basket by the SGA in their last game at home. So, yeah, I'll take the 3 here with the Knicks. I think that this is a game, like you mentioned, that the books are expecting to come down to the wire. And again, this is a game that Knicks can win outright as well. So I think a good bounce back spot here. I think obviously Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, the defense I think should ratchet up in this game here against the Miami Heat. So yeah, I'll take the 3 here with the Knicks. You have anything on the total?
206.5.
It's low.
I mean, I want to lean under, but I think I have to lean over. I just think that this total's so low. The last meeting ended up landing 234. That game was back in January.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to maybe be a bit bold here and lean to the over. You could argue pace might come back to bite him, but the Knicks defensively, last 2 games, the Spurs torched him in the first half especially. That game was pretty high scoring. Thunder a good offense, but still that game was a bit more high scoring than people thought. The Heat gave up 107 to Washington. Okay. Portland's terrible, but they had a nice win there. Gave up 113 at home to Golden State. I'm going to lean over. I get the argument of there should be a physical game between 2 defensive-minded teams. This total just feels too low to me. I'll go contrarian over in this one.
Miami has been the best defensive rated team over the last 5 games, but I mean, like you mentioned, it hasn't been against the greatest competition. They played the Trailblazers where they only scored 82 points in that game. 107 they gave up to the Wizards. They only gave up, they gave up 113 to the Warriors, 184 to the 84 to the Cavs, so 88 to the it's kind of been hit or miss. So I'll stay away from the total. I mean, like you mentioned,
I'm not betting it.
low.
I'm just looking at this number.
Sure.
I'm going to lean over.
Yeah. And again, pace. Miami is at number 14 over the last 5 games, and the Knicks are at number 22 as far as pace goes over the last 5 games as well. So, and again, it could come down to the wire where, they're fouling at the end and they could push it over the total because the spread is right now around 2.5, 3, up to 3.5. So again, books are expecting this to come down to the wire. So staying away from the total for sure. Player props in this game. What are you looking at?
Well, Brunson's tough to ignore because he does everything offensively for this team. But if we are going to look at what could be a lower scoring game or a game that we think is going to come down to the wire, it means Josh Hart's going to play a lot of minutes. So I'm going to look at Josh Hart. Probably, I'm curious if I want the rebounds, the assists, or both. 10.5 rebounds. Yeah, I'll lean to the over. He has gone over this number in 8 of the last 10. Hart's my favorite role player in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go against him here. I think he's in line for a good game. But trying to think of what else I really want. Hartenstein's been good recently. If you want to go for his points, rebounds, and assists at 18.5, he has gone over in 8 of 10 as well. If you want to make a decent, I'd say, I'd say sneaky wager on Hartenstein to maybe have a good game against Bam. We'll see what happens there. Butler really hasn't done much recently. He's done well against the Knicks, but his under 30.5 PRA has gone under an 8 of the last 10. I know people are always scared that Butler's going to wake up one day. He hasn't woken up for a couple weeks, so I'm curious how that's going to unfold. But yeah, I don't really have much besides Josh Hart rebounds. I'm kind of grasping at straws. I mentioned Hardenstein points and rebounds maybe, but that's basically it.
Yeah, Hart rebounds and assists are at 16.5 at plus 105. I mean, he's gone over this number rather easily over his 4 out of the last 5 games. But like you mentioned, the rebounding numbers are what really sticks out for Josh Hart. 15, 12, 6, 14, 12, 6 assists, 8 assists, 10, 10, 5. So again, it's the fact that he's playing the amount of minutes that he is. And I think this is another game where we do expect him to be out there for 42 minutes minimum, 45. I mean, who knows? He's been out there for 47 out of the 48 minutes for this New York Knicks team. So I do like that at plus 105 for Josh Hart. Isaiah Hartenstein rebounds might be another look, but again, I don't like taking 2 players on the same prop, especially on the same team, obviously. But he's been decent. We'll see if Mitchell Robinson does in fact end up playing here tonight or not. But other than that, I really didn't have much as far as player props in this game. Anything else for this game?
No. Think we basically covered it.
All right. Before we get over to the next game on the schedule here in the NBA, let me tell everyone about our friends over at Hall of Fame Bets. Win bigger by betting smarter this NBA and soccer season with Hall of Fame Bets, a sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NBA and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bet's revolutionary parlay optimizer tool to get hit rates broken down by leg as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. All right, Scott, let's get over to the next game on the schedule. It's going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. They are in Philadelphia here tonight to take on the Sixers. Currently, as it stands, the Sixers are catching 5 points in this game with a total of 224. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, for the OKC Thunder, SGA is questionable, and Jalen Williams is also questionable for this game. For the Sixers, we did see the news of Joel Embiid possibly making his return, but he's officially listed as out for this game. Tyrese Maxey did participate in shoot-around, but he's officially listed as questionable on the injury report, along with Robert Covington, who is out. DeAnthony Milton is out as well. So Maxey did participate in shoot-around. Looks like he should be a go in this game for the Sixers. Thunder laying 5 points on the road here against the Sixers here. Scott, what do you think?
I mean, Williams potentially not playing is massive for OKC because he's a really, really good basketball player. Shea came back from injury and he's been fine for the most part. I feel like his overall stats have not been great. I mentioned his under for points against the Pelicans a couple of days ago, and that worked out well because he's clearly battling something. Still the game winner against the Knicks, but his overall, I'd say, volume has kind of decreased because he just can't really get to his spots as easily as he did earlier in the season. Embiid is probably not going to play in this game, right? There's like rumors he might, but probably not.
No, they already ruled him out. Okay. The report came yesterday that he could make his return on Tuesday, but he's already been ruled out. So maybe look for him out in the next game.
I'm going to lean to the Thunder. You have Tony Brothers reffing, so maybe Shea gets 20 free throws, but I'll lean to the Thunder in this game. I just don't like anything about Philly. Once again, I'm going to wait for them to get Embiid back, but I've been critical of this team because they don't have enough scoring punch, and I think OKC does, with or without Williams. So, yeah, give me the Thunder. I know we're all kind of waiting to see if you end up getting Embiid back in the next week, but it's not for this game. Maxey was battling a hip issue. He did go through morning shoot-around, so he should be playing. Shea's also questionable, but I don't know if he went through shoot-around or not. I'm going to lean to the Thunder. not a strong opinion. I kind of want to wait on the injury report here, but I just don't think Philly is that good of a basketball team, especially without Embiid. So, yeah, I'll take the Thunder for now.
Yeah, I don't see any updated news on SGA here as of the time we're recording. So definitely keep your um, eyes and ears open for the status of SGA in this game. Um, I think I kind of like the Sixers in the spot catching the points here. I think there's, I mean, you mentioned that. I think SGA does play. How effective is he going to be? Because again, he hasn't scored more than 24 points over his last 4 games, and that's telling for a guy that just walks into 31 every single night for the Thunder. I do expect Maxey to play here. And again, I think that if there's an opportunity for the Sixers to get out of that play-in tournament bracket, it's a possibility, but they're sitting about 2.5 games out, so it is going to be a tough hill to climb with about 7 to 8 games left here. Sixers at home this season, catching points, and it's hard to kind of gauge it because again, a lot of those games have been without Joel Embiid. But for the Sixers, let me see if I can find those numbers here. So 2-7 straight up, 3-5-1 against the spread in those spots. So not very good for the Sixers. I think this might be the last game for the Thunder on their little road trip here. Let me double check here. No, they still have several more games here. I'm sorry. So this is their second game on their road trip here. I mean, I don't love it. I'm not going to be betting, but if you gun to my head, I'll take the points here with the Sixers. You have anything on the total?
Not really. I don't know who's playing. I guess
Yeah.
I'll lean over, but I need to know if Maxey and Shea and Williams are playing. So, yeah, I don't have much. It's a game I'm definitely not going to bet on.
Player props, anything?
I don't know who's playing. So, it's definitely a game I'm not going to bet on.
Yeah, I mean, they only
You have anything
have.
you want to give out for this? Because Chet has not been very good lately, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, so they only have Jalen Williams, SGA, and Tyrese Maxey. All the players that we're wondering if they're going to be playing here tonight are available for player props. But again, obviously nobody else is available here because of those injuries, and we're waiting. So I mean, I think Maxey does end up playing because he did participate in shoot around. His points prop is at 25.5. So I do think that he can come out here and have a really good game for the Sixers. But other than that, I mean, there's nobody else really listed that we can discuss on player props. So we'll just keep it moving here for the next game, which is going to be the Houston Rockets.
By the way, sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
Shea's points are 28.5. So if you do want to lean to the under, he has had less than 25 and 4 straight, if you want to go for that angle. Has done well historically against the Sixers, but once again, Shea's a bit compromised physically, so that could be an option. Shea under 1.5 threes. He has gone under this number in each of the last 3 meetings against Philly, gone under this number in 7 of the last 8 games that he's played in. He's attempted less than 5 threes in 6 of the last 7 games. So you might have to sweat out a 1-for-4 game or a 1-for-3 game from 3. But if you want to just fade Shea based on his recent performances, and we know Shea doesn't really attempt many threes, that could be an option too. Sorry.
No, you're good. All right, next game on the schedule. Let's get over to the Houston Rockets. They are traveling to Minnesota to take on the Timberwolves. Currently, the updated number is -7 in favor of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Total of 215 in this game. Looking at the injury report, start here with the Houston Rockets. They will be without the usual suspects, Alperen Şengün, Tari Eason, and Steven Adams. Cam Whitmore is back for this Rockets team. And for the Minnesota Timberwolves on their injury report, the 2 names that have been there for majority of the season, Jalen Clark, and obviously we know Karl Anthony Towns is going to be out as well. Rockets took a huge L in their first game back off of that road trip against the Mavericks, but now immediately heading back out on the road to take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. And this is a game that if the Rockets want any chance to catch the Warriors, they have to have this game because their next game is going to be against the Warriors, in fact, on Thursday. So must-win game here. And then they have they have the Warriors on Thursday here. But let's start with this game here, Scott. Rockets catching 7 against the Minnesota Timberwolves.
I really want to make a case for Houston. I really want to make a case for it. Minnesota has killed this team. They faced off twice this season, once in Houston back in January, once in Minnesota in February. Minnesota won both games by 21 plus points. They absolutely just killed this team. The Timberwolves had a pretty bad no-show at home against the Bulls last game too, so you can argue that it's a great, I'd say, get right pissed off spot to get the Timberwolves in, where they're going to be extremely motivated after losing that game to the Bulls, and they might just come out swinging. Houston was in great form. Jalen Green had an off night. It happens. Luka was just stupid in that game. What do you have? 32 in the first half in that game, I think.
Yeah, and then he had that circus three
Yeah,
or
the
not
underhand
3 point.
scoop shot,
Yeah,
and the game was over. And
yeah.
that didn't go well, but it happens. You're not gonna have your best stuff every night. I really want to lean to Houston, but I think I'm gonna lean to Minnesota. I just think it's the right scheduling spot after losing at home to Chicago. It's just such a spot where people are going to be down on Minnesota and they show up with a little bit of intensity, a little bit of edge, and take care of business against Houston. I'm not saying Houston's better without Şengün, but they have played really well without him.
Mm.
I'm wondering if they've played it too well without him, and some regression might be near. It concerns me. And the lack of proper size on the interior means they might get killed on the glass. That's a serious problem for them in this game. I'm going to lean to Minnesota. I hope I'm wrong. I think the Rockets are fun. I want to see the Rockets and the Warriors come down to the wire for that final 10 spot. But based on the spot itself, there's a lot to like about Minnesota. I'm going to lean to Minnesota.
Yeah, and we talked about this when we were talking about the win streak for the Rockets. That I mean, it wasn't against the greatest competition, and they took care of business against those teams. But I mean, it was the Blazers, it was the Spurs that they barely won by 2 points. It was the Wizards, it was the Bulls, the Jazz, the Trailblazers, the Thunder without SGA, the Jazz team that doesn't play a lick of defense.
Even that game
Um,
was close.
and that even they only won that game by 1 point, and then to come back against the Dallas and they gave up 125 points. So I think you're 100% correct about number one, the scheduling spot, because you take a look that Rockets came back home after that short 2-game road trip, and they came home against to play the Dallas Mavericks. Now they're going back out to play the Minnesota Timberwolves, and you take a look for the Wolves in this game that they're gonna want to bounce back, like you mentioned, because they had no show against Chicago, and that was a game they had just came off against Denver, so that was gonna be a flat spot for them. But these are their next two games are against the Rockets and the Raptors. I know they're battling for that number one spot in the Western Conference, so these are two games that they want to have because they end the season playing the Suns on the road, the Lakers on the road, and Denver on the road. So they only have 3 home games left here, 2 of which are in back-to-back games here tonight, and then they have the Raptors tomorrow. So these are 2 games that they want to get. So as much as I want to take the Rockets here, you mentioned it that I think they'll be able to really defensively clamp down on Jalen Green, because Jalen Green historically hasn't been very good against the Minnesota Timberwolves. He did have a game last season where he did have 42 points. But other than that, he's really struggled shooting the basketball and being efficient from the floor. And again, if they shut him down, you're relying on who? I mean, Jabari Smith, Cam Whitmore coming off of the bench. So I think this is a good bounce back spot here for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So as much as it pains me, I'll take the Wolves here with you minus the 7.
It's just a
Total,
bad matchup. Like I
yeah,
don't know
it
who's
is.
supposed to rebound the ball for this Houston team against Minnesota.
Yeah, and again, if Rudy Gobert is playing in this game tonight, he should have feast on the boards here tonight.
I will
But
never bet his player prop over, but he should
yeah,
have a great rebounding game.
yeah, 100%. Total is sitting at what did I say? 215 in
215, I
this
think.
game. Yeah.
I'm going to lean under in this game. If I think Minnesota can actually throw a bunch of different looks at Jalen, and they could throw McDaniels on him, you could throw potentially Ant if he's engaged defensively. We know Gobert is a great rim protector. I just don't know how Houston's supposed to have options to score if you're looking at Jalen being a bit off. And I think Minnesota is a team that offensively can be a bit one-dimensional at times, relying heavily on Ant. Reed has given them a little bit of versatility because he's been able to fill in for Cat. But I am going to link to the under. The last meeting, I believe landed. What did it land? The last meeting landed 201.
Yeah.
I'll lean under. I just think if Green is not having a monster game, I don't trust the rest of the Rocket supporting cast. So
Yeah.
I'm going to lean to the under in this game.
Yeah, I'm on the under here as well. I think this might be a game where I think that offensive fun that we saw against those lesser opponents and worse defenses where they had that winning streak is then come to an end because Dallas has been playing some pretty good defense. We know Minnesota has been consistently one of the best defenses in the entire league in the entirety of the season. So I think there's an opportunity where they really, clamp down on Jalen Green and probably make somebody else beat you in this game. So I'm on the under here as well. I think it could be something similar to what we saw in the first two meetings between these two squads. So under for me. Yeah, Adam, we'll get to your question in a second here. Player props here, Scott. Anything you're looking at?
I don't know if I have the courage to actually take an under for Jalen Green, but it actually is a really bad matchup for Jalen Green. He just has the ultimate green light, though. That's kind of the problem. But 24.5, though, that number's a bit too low for me to lean to an under. If it was still juiced to like 27.5, I'd consider it, but I can't even do that. Oh, what do I really like in this game? I mean, we talked about Gobert rebounds. That I can't take. And turnovers under is interesting, but he's turned the ball over a ton against Houston, historically speaking.
Mm-hmm.
But is that 3.5? And he's gone under this number in 8 of the last 10 and 16 of the last 20. It's minus 140. But Houston's aggressive with their defense. Yeah, you know what? I think I'll lean to Ant under turnovers. And I am going to do it for memes or not. Give me Dylan Brooks under for points. I got to imagine he's going to get the Ant assignment. It's at 9.5. Have fun. You're going to spend all your energy trying to guard this guy. And all you do is shoot threes. You cannot really attack the rim at all. So I'll lean to Dylan Brooks under. It's just a matchup where I think all of his attention is focused on stopping Ant, and the rest is going to come after that. It takes a lot of energy to guard Ant. So I'm going to lean to Dylan Brooks under for points.
Yeah, I mean, as far as player prop, I mean, this could be like an ugly game, one of those really low scoring games, like a 98 to like 80 type of game here. So I mean, Rudy Gobert rebounds makes a lot of sense in this game, but again, I'm not going to be playing it.
I'm rooting for you. Can't be me.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it either. I've been burned by that guy too many times. If you want to look at Nas Reed threes, maybe that might be worth a look. But other than that, player props, I really didn't have much for this game. Anything else for this game?
Not really. I thought about maybe Amon rebounds because somebody's going to have to try to rebound for this team, but
yeah,
I don't really have much. Once again, I'm rooting for the Rockets because I think that they're a fun story, but I just think it's a bad spot. I'm going to lean Minnesota.
Adam asking, why is Rudy Gobert the favorite for Defensive Player of the Year?
Because the Spurs are about 40 games under 500.
Yeah.
And that's the simple explanation.
Yeah.
You're looking at who's a candidate to win the award. It's either him or Wemby, and the Spurs defense is terrible. Now, you can dive deeper into those stats and say that the Spurs are actually the worst defensive team in the league, and the only reason why they're not the worst defensive team in the league is because of Wemby. He single-handedly covers up for all of the ineptitude around him, which is true. But voters are not going to vote Defensive Player of the Year winner for a team that's not even in the realm of the play-in. The Spurs have one of the worst records in the league. They've been better lately. I love Wemby as a player. I recognize how good he is defensively. Historically speaking, record matters for the Defensive Player of the Year award. The Spurs record is not good enough. Minnesota might be a 1 seed. Their defense is elite. Gobert's getting it for that reason.
Yeah. So if you look at, I'll just pull up the season long here quickly. Minnesota, the number 1 defensive rated team, and they're in contention for the number 1 spot in the Western Conference. So typically, it usually goes to that best defensive player on a winning basketball team. So Orlando is number 2, but they really don't have a guy that really sticks out as far as a defensive guy. It would be
Jonathan Isaac if he was actually healthy for most of the season, but he's not.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if you want to.
Sorry, apologies, by the way. So the Spurs were 40 under. They're 39 under. Apologies. They're not giving it to a guy on a team that's 39 games under 500. That's not happening.
Yeah, and then like you mentioned, like you can't make the same argument. Like Miami's top 5 in defense, and you think about Bam, but again, that's a team that's been, or he's missed games, but they're also hovering around that play-in tournament bracket, or are in that play-in tournament bracket right now. OKC, again, defensively, team defense, they've been really good. Other than that, I mean, Boston, you don't really have, it's team defense. Orlando, it's team defense. When we talk about Minnesota, your defensive anchor on that team is pretty much Rudy Gobert. So I think that's pretty much why he's at a minus 5,000 price right now to win Defensive Player of the Year. All right, next game on the schedule here. Let's get over to talk about his former team, the Utah Jazz. They are hosting the Cleveland Cavaliers in this game, where the Cavs are a 12.5-point road favorite here with a total of 218. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, for the Cleveland Cavaliers, let's see. Isaac Okoro and Dean Wade are out. For the Utah Jazz, no Jordan Clarkson, no John Collins, no Lauri Markkanen, and that is pretty much it. So no Clarkson, no two JCs, Clarkson and Collins, and then no Lauri Markkanen here tonight either for the Utah Jazz. Cavs laying 12.5 here. Donovan Mitchell returns to Utah. Scott, what are you thinking about this game?
I'm taking Utah. I'm not really going to hesitate much on it. I know Utah's borderline tanking. I don't even know if it's borderline anymore. They're tanking, but at least they're decent at home. They have lost 9 straight. They were competitive against Houston at home, lost to the Spurs by 7, lost to Dallas by 10. Dallas is one of the hottest teams in the league. It's actually not even that bad. Cleveland, though, has really not been good for the last couple of weeks. And you're looking at the midseason winning streak they were on. They went like 17-1 or 18-1 during a stretch there. One of the flukiest stretches of the entire season. They're not a very good basketball team. I think they're fine. They're a mediocre Eastern Conference playoff team. Is that a fair assessment of their overall, let's say,
Cavs? Yeah.
roster?
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're fine. I don't think any of their starting 5 actually mesh well together. I think Garland and Mitchell are a miserable pairing. I think Mobley and Allen don't work together. I've mentioned all of these stances before. I don't like how Cleveland's playing. Why would I want to lay 12.5? You can argue maybe it's a get-right spot after Denver killed them by basically 30 in the last meeting. But they don't win by margin, and they've been really bad on the road. They played Denver. I said lost by 29. A game before that played Charlotte on the road. Charlotte can't beat anybody, and they lost to Charlotte, giving up 118 points. Played the Heat, lost by 37 points.
Mhm.
Played the Timberwolves on the road, lost by 13. Played Indiana, they won by 5 on the road. Played the Rockets, lost by 14. They've been terrible on the road for the last couple of weeks. I can't back this team. They've been really bad away from home. Give me Utah. I think they might actually be alive to win the game.
I think that's certainly the possibility here. Cavs, sorry, trying to pull up their numbers since the All-Star break.
Well, you pull that up, by the way. So just to be clear, the Cavs have lost each of their last 4 road games. They've lost 5 of their last 6 road games. I'm not laying 12.5 with a team that can't win on the road.
4-8 straight up, 3-9 against the spread in their road games since the All-Star break. And I mean, you read off of the teams that they've lost to, and it hasn't been very pretty for them. And also
118 to Charlotte. What are you, out of your mind?
Yeah, and they haven't been very good defensively.
And Okoro's
Utah,
out.
yeah, Utah is the 4th worst rated defense. Right behind them is the Cleveland Cavaliers. So again, I'm taking the points here, but I think my more favorite play also is going to be the over in this game because again, I'm talking about how bad these defenses have been, especially the Cavs. I mean, we know what the Utah Jazz are, especially with all their guys being out here. But I think this number of 218 is a little bit conservative. I think Cavs can have success on the offensive side, but I don't trust them to cover the number. And I think Jazz, again, with how bad this Cavs defense has been, even without some of their guys that are out in this game, and Clarkson and Collins and Lauri Markkanen, they still have guys that can fill up the basket here. And again, this might be a game where you want to look at maybe Colin Sexton going up against his former team, his player props here. We'll talk about that in a second. But do you have anything on the total?
I like the over. You mentioned both teams don't guard anybody. You're right. I like the over in this game.
All right, player props. What are you looking at?
So people are going to be on Mitchell blindly because he's against his former team. Not going to be me. Mitchell's been terrible since he came back, and he's been so bad that some people are theorizing that he came back prematurely from his injury, but he's been really, really bad. To go through his games, he's played 2 games since coming back from injury. He had 12 points against Philly and 13 points against Denver. Why would I want to slam his over for points or like for anything at this point? I don't think he's healthy. So I'm not going to take Mitchell props. I understand that there's a revenge angle. I get that people love the narrative when it comes to betting. Mitchell's been a solid fade candidate. He's not healthy. Just watching him play, he's been really bad. I like Mitchell unders in this game, at least partly. I'm not going to take the overs. I'll tell you that much. I think the overs are going to be the public, I don't want to say sucker play of the day, but I think it's going to be the 99% of people have Donovan Mitchell on the over, and then he ends up with 15 points. I just feel like it's one of those games where the public will be all over it, not me. I'm following the injury news. It's kind of like my fate of Shea. I want to see him look healthy, and he's not healthy. So I'm not going to take any overs with him.
Yeah, I think the ones that I would play would probably be Colin Sexton overs, and not it's not the narrative of him going up against his former team. It's just the fact that he's the primary scorer on this team.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the starting lineup, right, it's Colin Sexton, it's Keontae George. Okay, you can make a case there. But other than that, the other three guys are it's Tyler Hendricks in the starting lineup, Walker Kessler, and then Sensabaugh, who's the starting small forward for this Utah Jazz team. So by sheer volume and the amount of minutes that he's going to be playing here tonight, I just think that is a good opportunity for Colin Sexton to really step up. His numbers at 23.5 right now. He had 29 against the Rockets. He had 26 against the Spurs. Fell a basket short against the Kings, and then he had 20 each against the Rockets in a matchup earlier in March, and then 20 against Dallas, where he only played 29 minutes. So Colin Sexton points would be the worth the look here for me in this game. I want to see how Walker Kessler has done recently as far as blocks or rebounds, but any other player props you're looking at?
No, you mentioned Sexton. I might be tempted by maybe a case for Sensabaugh, who's been decent lately. Maybe his points at 11.5. But no, I think I basically covered it. Not really a strong thought on player props, but I think Utah finds a way to keep this close. I really think they got a shot to maybe win this game. I might look like an idiot if they lose by 40, but it is what it is. I just don't know why Cleveland's laying 12.5 when they've been this bad on the road.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's get over to the next game of the night. We've got the Utah Jazz. Utah Jazz, the San Antonio Spurs. They are in the Mile High City to take on the Denver Nuggets. Nuggets are currently laying 16 points here at home with a total of 223.5. Injury report in this game for the I can't talk now. San Antonio Spurs. So the news came out yesterday that Devin Vassell and Jeremy Sohan are done for the season. And then Keldon Johnson is out for this game. So it's pretty much Mr. Victor Wembanyama by himself here tonight. But the other starters, I'll go and read these names. It's going to be Trey Jones, Malachi Branham, Julian Champagnie, Cedi Osman, and Victor Wembanyama. For the Denver Nuggets in their injury report, Aaron Gordon is probable. Nikola Jokic is probable. Jamal Murray is questionable. And Zeke Naji continues to be out. So probable tags on Gordon and Jokic. And we'll see if Jamal Murray plays. He is officially questionable for this game. Denver laying 16 here. Scott, what are you thinking about this game?
So Jokic is putting up a triple-double in 3 quarters, right?
I mean, he should. Yeah, he should have easy work in this game.
I can't take San Antonio. They're a terrible basketball team. They have been more competitive lately, and the front office decided they've been too competitive lately. So they're going to start benching some guys who are pretty solid. Vassell is getting punished for winning a couple of games last week, so they're going to have to put him on the shelf. Yeah, I can't trust the Spurs. My only question remaining with this team, how many games until they pull Wemby? Because you can play him throughout, but he's already clinched the minimum game requirement. So Rookie of the Year is his already. That's already a win. Defensive Player of the Year, he's not going to win. I know that people have arguments for it. It's not happening. Voters are not going to vote for a guy from a team that's 40 games under. How much longer does he play? And when he finally does not play, with this current roster, they're losing the first game by 40, right? First game Wemby doesn't play with this team, they're going to lose by 40.
So I think it's either Friday is his last game or Sunday is his last game.
It's pure speculation, but why would you keep playing Wemby if you're benching every other player who's worth a damn on your team?
Yeah. And how many games you say he's already played?
He's already reached the criteria. He's played 66, I think.
Okay. So I'm thinking either tonight's, it could be end of this weekend that we'll see the last of Wembanyama, at least for this season. So,
I could be wrong on that.
And this is not a nationally televised game,
I
is it?
think Spurs will sit him.
Yeah, let me see if this is a nationally televised game. No, it's not. Um, yeah, I think maybe 2, 3 games max is what we have left for Wimby. So, um, yeah, yeah, it's Denver. I think they just come out here and take care of business. I do like the over in this game, though. I still think the Spurs can put up points with the guys that they do have out there. Obviously, we know Wimby can go out there and drop a 30-15 game easily. But Trey Jones, I think again, he's a capable scorer. Malachi Branham, we know he can knock down shots. I mean, Chetty Osman thinks he has like the ultimate green light.
He thinks he's so
Um,
good in his own head, though.
yeah, so I think the Spurs can get their points, and I think Denver has easy pickings, even if it's without Jamal Murray. So yeah, I still like the over. That number's right now at 223.5. You have any thoughts on the total?
I really don't have much because I mean, they just don't have many shot creators. San Antonio, like it's a problem. Denver has won each of the first two meetings by 12 and 11, respectively, faced off in that non-neutral site game, but still in Texas game
Yeah.
on the 15th, where Denver did win by 11. I really think Denver might win by 30 tonight.
Okay.
I
Fair.
feel like even though this team is still potentially missing Jamal, they've not been really great lately. Lost at home to the Suns, lost at home to Minnesota. Now there's rumors that Luka might be on Joker's coattail, or at least catching up to him in the MVP race. I don't really know how much that's true or not, but the point is there's a narrative now. Luka is this week's hot commodity for who's going to chase down Joker to win MVP. I think Denver shows up and kicks their asses. We saw it against Cleveland. They showed up. Joker had, what do you have, 28, 18, and 16? It was something stupid.
Hmm.
I don't even remember what his stat line was, but I think Denver's realizing enough playing around. Shea's injured. I see, according to ZSA in the chat, that Shea did not go through shoot around this morning. So the point is the Thunder might be in trouble, and we know the Timberwolves can be a bit hot and cold occasionally. So I think Denver wants that one seed. I think it actually matters to them because they're so good at home. I think they want the home court. I think Denver's going to kill this team. So based on narrative and based on the overall spot itself and based on the Spurs injury report, I think Denver takes it to them tonight. I think Denver kills them. I'll take the Nuggets by 20 and change.
Yeah, I'd probably look at a Denver team total in that case, as well. I again, this is just part of the season where the lesser teams around they're what's the motivation to play any type of defense? And like you mentioned, Denver is vying for that number one spot right now. They're half a game behind the OKC Thunder, so they just want to come out here and take care of business. Speaking of the OKC Thunder, SGA, like our fans mentioning, did not participate, and Jalen Williams just got ruled out as well for this OKC
Giddy
Thunder
time.
team.
Get your
Yeah.
Giddy props ready.
Yeah, Giddy, look, put on that triple double for Giddy here tonight. Any player props looking at in this game?
You mentioned Branham. I mean, somebody's going to have to shoot for this team. I don't mind Champagny threes maybe, but if I was going for Denver, I think Joker triple double is just going to happen. I don't know
Yeah.
if Joker actually cares about MVP. Most people think he doesn't. I don't think he does either. But a part of me is kind of wondering if Joker is at least acknowledging the disrespect, maybe. Triple
Mhm.
doubles plus 185? Really? 185? Spurs can't stop anybody. I
Yeah,
got
so
to assume that Joker's going to be in line for a great stat line. Give me the 185.
yeah, I think that it's 185 because he hasn't really recorded a triple double against the Spurs as often as we think he's had one,
Then
two, I
one in
think
the
in the
last five.
yeah. So but his points probably something I'm interested in. It's at 26.5, and you kind of look at what he's done against the Spurs: 35, 41, 21, 26, 37, 39, and 31. So and again, if Jamal Murray does not end up playing, I don't think he does play in this game because they really don't need him. So I think that obviously offense is going to go through the Joker here tonight. So I do like his points drop over 26.5 here for Nikola Jokic. Any other player props you're looking at?
No, I think we basically covered it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm really tempted by. I don't think so. People are going to look at Wemby props. I mean, I guess based on usage, but I don't know if the Spurs keep this game close. So, no, I think I basically covered it. I think Jokic does have a triple double tonight.
Okay.
And I do think that the Nuggets win this game by a ton.
All right. 2 games left here. Let's get over to the game between the Dallas Mavericks, they are visiting the Golden State Warriors tonight in the Bay Area. Currently, the Warriors are a 1 point favorite with a total of 232. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, start here with the Dallas Mavericks. They will be without Josh Green. Derek Lively II is questionable. For the Golden State Warriors, Jonathan Kuminga is questionable. He's dealing with a knee injury, and Klay Thompson is probable. Dario Saric is out for the Golden State Warriors. Mavericks have been playing some great basketball as of late. They have now won, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 straight. 11 out of their last 12 games. They're 11-1 against a spread in that span here as well. Last game of a road trip here before they get back home for 3 games at home. And 4 of their last 6 games are going to be at home for the Mavericks. But this is a big one here for both teams, in fact. Warriors laying a point here. Scott, what do you think?
I'm going to lean to Dallas in this game. They're 2-0 against the Warriors this season. Golden State, not good at home. They're 6 over in general, and they're 1 under at home. So I know they've been in good form lately. Facing off against the Spurs and the Hornets on the road helps. Did beat Orlando and Miami on the road, though, so nice wins there. I can't go against this Mavericks team. Luka's been an absolute lunatic, and I can't go against them. They've been in great form. I don't think the Warriors are that good at basketball. We've talked about it for months at this point. They're the hottest team in the league right now. I'll take Dallas basically at a pick 'em at this point. I'm trying to think of what case I want to make for Golden State because Steph has really not been great lately when it comes to shooting. Defense has been good. Draymond was really good last game. Facing off against the Spurs might help with that, but still, I gotta lean Dallas. 2-0 in the head-to-head. I know Curry's an all-time great player, but right now, Dallas has the best player on the floor by a mile.
Yeah.
Luka's better than Steph right now, and it's not even close. So you could argue Kyrie might be better than Steph right now. You can make an argument. I have to go with Dallas here. I feel like this line's too short.
Yeah, Kyrie's, I mean, as great as Luka has been, and all the conversation has been about Luka, Kyrie has been really good as well. I don't think that he's getting his flowers about how efficient, number one, he's been from the floor, and how he's been able to also provide the scoring load there with Luka. So Kyrie's playing well, and this is I always look to fade those teams that are coming back from a road trip, and Warriors are in that spot here. I don't want to say they're looking ahead to the Rockets. So we saw that back and forth about with Draymond and Tari Eason. So I don't think they're looking ahead. Maybe the Rockets might be looking
You
into
think
that
they're
Warriors
scoreboard
game.
watching? This game is 2 hours after the Rockets game starts. You think they're scoreboard watching? It might be too far in advance. I'm just curious if you think they're going to be keeping tabs.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a possibility because so for the Warriors, so they have the Mavericks here at home, and then they go to Houston. They play Dallas again on Friday. So they're going to be on the front end of a back-to-back against the Rockets on Thursday.
That's a really tough 3-game set.
Yeah. So the case here is being, if we're talking about standing theory, or for lack of better words, that if they just go out and take care of business against the Rockets, like they pretty much cemented their spot into that play-in tournament, right? Because the Rockets, even, and I think that if we think they lose here tonight, that's another thing they'll get in the hand. If they go out and beat the Rockets in Houston on Thursday night, I think that they're pretty much into that play-in tournament.
So, just for the sake of hypotheticals, if we're assuming the Warriors and the Rockets both lose tonight, Golden State is still up 2. And if Golden State does beat Houston the game after, that would put Golden State up 3 with the tiebreaker, I think.
So I think, yeah, they've beaten, I want to say they've beaten us both times this season. Let me double check.
They would be up 3 with the tiebreaker with about 6 games to go. So
they've already won 2 games. Over. Yeah. They won both meetings this season.
Yeah. But just for the actual game totals here, both teams have played 74. So both teams have 8 games left. Golden State's 2 up with the breaker. So yes, I'm assuming if Golden State does beat Houston in the next head-to-head meeting, you can argue it's over.
Yeah. And then even if they don't, then they play Mavericks on Friday, but then they have games left against the Jazz, the Trailblazers. I mean, those are 2 very winnable games. They have Lakers in there. That would be a big game as well, and the Pelicans. So And we say all that. I think Dallas is the right side here. It's that tricky spot for a team that's coming home from that road trip and they immediately head back on the road again. So Mavericks here as well for me. Total is 232 here, Scott. Anything on that?
I'm going to lean over. You can argue maybe it's a playoff atmosphere, but I just see a lot of points in this game. Then again, Dallas defensively has actually been good lately. I might actually reconsider that. I actually think it changed my mind. I'm going to lean to the under. Just looking at the recent form of both teams defensively, I have liked what I've seen. And I wonder pace-wise if this game's going to slow down late because of how close it might be, or maybe just the overall atmosphere itself with the playoff atmosphere. I changed my mind. I'm going to lean to the under. I just think the stakes are so high. I don't want the over.
Yeah, Dallas is number 2 in defensive rating over the last 5 games. Golden State Warriors number 5. So 2 top 5 defenses over the last 5 games. And then we take a look at pace. Dallas is, where is Dallas? Pace. They're number 11, and Golden State's all the way down to number 18 as far as pace goes. So, yeah, I think we'll see, again, a playoff type of atmosphere here. And maybe some tired legs as well, coming off that road trip for the Golden State Warriors here. So under for me here as well. Player props, what are you looking at?
For player props in this game, I got to mention Luka. The question is, what do I want? Because Luka can drop 40, 12, and 10, and nobody would be surprised. Luka triple-doubles plus 220, if you were interested in that. But historically speaking, Golden State's done a pretty good job of preventing triple-doubles for him. Do I even want to know what Luka's points prop is for this game?
For Luka?
Yeah, do I even want to know? It's 33.5. It's actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I don't mind it. I like Luka rebounds in this game. It's currently at 9.5. He's gone over in 7 of the last 10. It's at minus 130. I think that's a good line. So I think Luka rebounds is worth a look. I mean, this game just has Luka's fingerprints all over it, doesn't it?
It really does. I think he's a matchup nightmare for this Warriors team. Like, who's going to guard him? Like, is it Draymond? I mean, if Draymond's on him, he's going to get into foul trouble. Or is Draymond Green? Is it Andrew? It's Andrew Wiggins. Is it Andrew Wiggins? Possibly. Is it Kuminga?
I don't know what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, and then maybe you pivot to maybe Kyrie if you think that they double Luka's. But then it's like at that point, with how great Kyrie's playing, it's like it's picking your poison at that point. So I would pivot to Kyrie because, again, like you mentioned, I think all the focus is going to be on Luka here tonight. Kyrie's points props are at 25.5. I mean, either way.
I thought about pivoting to Hardaway Jr. threes. Just stand-up three-point shooters who are going to be open if they start trapping Luka.
Yeah. I don't think you can go wrong either way, honestly. Luka's he's playing really good basketball right now. And that's the time you want to back players like that. But you take a look at Luka against the Warriors over the last 5-6 games here, 34, 41, 40, 30, 39, and he only had 21 in a matchup back on March. Was this March 13th? I think that was a game where they didn't have Steph to the Warriors, and the Mavericks came out there and took care of business. But yeah, you have Steph in this game, so I mean, I couldn't talk you up a Luka props. He's just playing really good basketball right now.
Yeah. I also want to look at Andrew. I want to look at Andrew Wiggins' rebounds in this game. It's at 4.5. He's actually been good at rebounding lately. He's gone over this number in, I believe it's 9 of the last 10. It might be more than that. Let me just quickly check. Yeah, 9 of the last 10. They faced off twice this season. He had exactly 5 in those 2 games, so it was a bit close, but Dallas still not a good rebounding team. 4.5 for Wiggins, though. He's quietly been good on the boards. So I don't mind Andrew Wiggins over 4.5 rebounds at about minus 125.
All right, let's get over to the last game of the night here. We've got another good one here. We got the Clippers. They are in Sacramento to take on the Kings. Currently, the Clippers are a 2 to 2.5 point favorite, depending on your book, with a total of 222.5. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, for the Sacramento Kings, they are going to be without Kevin Huerter. They will be without Malik Monk as well. For the Clippers, why do I not see an injury report for them? Let me pivot to another site. For the Clippers, pretty clean injury report. Your main guys are going to be out there. James Harden, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard are all playing in this game here. Clippers currently sitting as the 4th seed in the Western Conference. Looks like they're pretty much cemented in that spot. They could drop down to the 5 seed. They do have a 2-game lead over the Dallas Mavericks. Meanwhile, the Sacramento Kings are currently a half a game behind the Phoenix Suns for the 7th spot and 1.5 games behind the Pelicans for the 6th spot. But this team is a little bit banged up right now. Like I mentioned, no Kevin Huerter, no Malik Monk. But Clippers laying 2 here. Scott, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm going to lean to the Clippers in this game. You could argue that the Kings at home can give the Clippers some problems, but I don't think the Kings are that good. And those 2 losses against the Mavericks were pretty concerning because they got run out of the building at home in the first meeting. Then they were up by a decent amount and blew the game again against the same exact opponent. Those are 2 games they kind of needed against Dallas. Then they beat Utah. Congrats. But the Clippers have won 3 straight against a weak competition for the most part. They beat Orlando in there, though. Good win, but still. I think I'm going to lean Clippers. I just don't think the Kings have enough firepower offensively anymore with Monk being out. Now you need Keegan and Harrison Barnes to go nuts a lot of the time, which I don't trust at all. I'm going to lean to the Clippers here. I think they're the better team, just simply put.
Yeah, I think it's real tough when you don't have Malik Monk that provides that scoring power off of the bench for you, and also Kevin Herter, who, you know, is that shooter that they wanted next to De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis. That's also not for this team, and then you're really compromised offensively. That let's say a Kawhi or Terrence Mann or even a Paul George are able to slow down De'Aaron Fox, then you're relying on Keegan Murray to have a big night or Sabonis to have a big night, but I just think that the Clippers come out here. I just they're just a better team right now. It seems like they've kind of found their form here a little bit. Have the Clippers. I know they were in a little bit of a slump since the All-Star break, but they won 3 games in a row. I know it hasn't been against the greatest competition, but you probably just want to go out here, take care of business, and really cement yourself into that top 4 or 5 seed in the Western Conference. And against the Sixers, the Magic, and the Hornets. And this is their last game of a road trip before they do go back home to play against the Denver Nuggets, the Utah Jazz, the Cleveland Cavaliers, 2 games against the Sun and then against the Jazz. So, yeah, give me the Clippers here, minus the 2 here. Total is sitting at 222.5 here. Scott, any thoughts on that?
I'm going to lean over, but I don't have much at all.
Yeah, I didn't have much for this total either. Again, I could see it going over any or either way. I will say this: the Clippers have gone over 6 out of their last 7 games. But again, like we mentioned, they've done the bulk of the scoring because it's been against the lesser competition. 2 against the Blazers, the Sixers, the Pacers, and then the Hornets. They put up 130 against in their last game. So, yeah, I'll lean over, but I again don't love it. Any player props you're looking at?
Yeah, I think I'm going to look at James Harden under 2.5 threes in this game.
Okay.
It's currently at minus 125 on DraftKings, but he has not shot the ball well at all recently. Going through Harden's numbers, the points are also down, but he has gone under his threes line in 8 of the last 10. So that does tell me once again that Harden is not exactly lighting it up from the outside. The attempts have also been there. There's some really ugly games here. 1 for 7, 1 for 2 for 9, 0 for 6. A lot of really bad shooting numbers here, but he only attempted 3 threes last game against the Hornets. So there is a chance that Harden might be pivoting a bit, but 2.5 threes just feels a bit high to me, especially based on his current form. I think he's injured just by watching him play. He's gone under this number in each of the last 2 meetings this season, so I do think that this line is a bit high. I'll go with the Harden under 2.5 threes.
All right. Yeah, I didn't have many player props in this game. I want to look at Zubac rebounds, but again, his minutes have really been fluctuating, so couldn't really get behind that. Sabonis rebounds, maybe. I want to see how he's done against the Clippers here. Let's see. 17, 15, and 12 in the last game, 15 and 10. Yeah, the rebounds haven't really been there for him either. So, yeah, not going to force it. Not many player props for me in this game for the Kings and the Clippers. Anything else here, Scott?
No, I think we basically covered it.
All right, that was the last game of the night here. Let's get over to our lock and dog for this Tuesday night schedule. Scott, you want to lead us off?
Sure, I got to remember what I like. For this game, for the slate, you know what? I think I'm just going to go with what I think should be a pretty. I got a couple of choices because I think that either the Lakers score a bunch of points or the Bucks score a bunch of points. I got to just pick the right one.
I think it's the Lakers.
I think it's the Lakers too, but the Bucks to get to 120.5, that feels like such a gift. I mean, Dame's out though, so I guess that might be why. Yeah, I'll go with the Lakers. I think the Lakers team total over is worth the look here. Their line should be what, like 122.5, give or take.
I think I saw DraftKings said 123.5. Let me just double check here. Yeah, they have it at 123.5, but definitely shop around for the best number.
I'm thinking if I want
DraftKings
to
has
actually go for the. Do I want to go full game or do I want to go first half on that?
I
might
will
want to
say
go
this.
first half actually.
Yeah, the Lakers are the second most profitable team to the first half over on the road. If that
Do you,
gives
by
you
any
any
chance,
confidence.
know what the first half team total is for the Lakers in this game?
So it's 121 is the first half total. If we do divide that by 2, that's what, 60 and a half, 3.5. It would probably be like 63 and a half.
Give me the over on that. I think they're going to have 70 at the half. They scored 67 in the last game against the Nets in the first half. You mentioned before the Lakers were a really good over team in the first half.
Yep.
Game against the Timberwolves on the road. I'm going to skip the Pacers game. They kind of no-showed that one. Game against the Grizzlies, they did have 69 in the first half of that game. First meeting against Toronto this season, that game ended up landing 263. That was the game with the officiating circus. But the Lakers in that game did have. They actually were not good in the first half in that game. But the point is, the Lakers' first half team total over. You said 63.5. That's good enough for me. I want to stay away from the full game because I am wondering with a back-to-back on the horizon if LeBron and AD get pulled in the second half like they did against the Nets and they just don't score in the second half. So give me the Lakers first half team total over at what should be around 63.5. For my dog, I wanted something with Giddy now that Shea did not participate in shoot around, but I don't see any props on any Thunder player besides Shea at this point. And Jalen Williams, who might not play either. So I think I'm just going to trust my instincts here. Give me Joker triple-double at plus 185. I just think it's a good matchup. I think that he's in line to really dominate. We saw what he did against the Cavs last game. At some point, he realized enough is enough, where they were struggling to beat some pretty decent teams. They still want that 1 seed, and the Spurs are a really bad team. Now they're sitting even more guys. Give me Joker triple-double at around plus 185 as my dog.
All right. For my lock, it's either Dallas or it's either the Clippers.
By the way, I
think I'm
found
gonna go.
Lakers first half team total 63.5 at minus 120. I'll take that.
Okay. I'll take the Clippers here tonight minus the 2 here against the Kings. Again, the Clippers, I think even though they played some bad opponents over the last couple games, I think that's sometimes what you need to get back into form here. And for the Clippers, for the Kings, again, the injuries to Herter and Monk, I think are pretty significant, especially the one to Malik Monk, right? The guy that's coming off your bench, that's the front runner for 6th man of the year. He's pretty much done for the season. But again, this Clippers team is healthy. I think they just come out here, take care of business against the Kings here. So I'll take the Clippers minus the 2 for my lock. For my dog, it's gonna be. See, I wish that I did like the Sixers, but now it's down to plus 114 on their money line. Let's go with the Knicks. Knicks plus 124. If you want to do like a Jalen Brunson 25 plus and a Knicks money line to get some better odds, I don't hate that. But I think this is a good get right spot here for the Knicks to come back after their last 2 performances, especially defensively. You know they're going to clamp down on defense here. So I think this is going to be a game where it comes down to the final, couple minutes. I think Jalen Brunson takes over at that point. I think they do a really good job defensively. So I'll take the Knicks here, plus 124 as my dog for the Tuesday night schedule. Scott, let's get our Underdog Fantasy entry here for tonight. Again, last week we cashed our Underdog Fantasy entry, so hopefully we can make it 2 weeks in a row here on this Tuesday pod. Again, use that promo code NBA SGPN. You'll get that first deposit bonus of up to $100. And if you are in a legal age and a legal state, get your family members involved, get your coworkers involved. Make sure that you use that promo code NBA SGPN. All right, Scott. Let's see here where we want to start. Let me see if they have an updated number on Giddy, and then we can start with that.
By the way, half an hour ago, Jalen Williams confirmed out for this game.
Okay. So no Williams and then no
Probably no
SGA.
Shea.
Yeah. All right. So let's see if they have Giddy. Okay, no Giddy yet. So all right. We want to go like Giannis. We want to go Jokic.
I don't know if you agree with the triple double or not, because it did a good job against him assist wise last time out, but it just feels like one of those games where Denver's not going to mess around and Joker's going to have a massive stat line.
It's spicy 1.5 higher.
I mean, it's not even a good deal because it's 1.85 if you just chop around on an actual book. So, okay, well, let's think of the props that we actually did think of. If we want to get cute with it, do we want to go Pat Bev lower 10.5 points? Or is that too cute?
I think I like it because again, this could be a game where it turns into a blowout, and
they said everyone.
And especially he's dealing with that wrist injury too, right? So you don't expect him to be out there chunking up shots. So yeah, let's do that.
18 last game, but you know.
Yeah, but that was who was that against?
Atlanta, I think.
Yeah, and I know they're not very good defensively either. I mean, I think I like it. I think he's not going to be your primary scorer. If he does get this, it's going to be because he made his 3-point shots. But he hasn't gone over this number in. He did, like you mentioned, he had that 18-point game, but then you have to go all the way back to March 4th where he was in double digit scoring. So
I just don't see many attempts.
Yeah,
so.
I think that was just an outlier in that game for him. So yeah, I do like. Let's go Bev under 10.5 points. What else are we looking at?
We can take something Luka related. I don't mind Wiggins rebounds at 4.5. That play's grown on me quite a bit.
Andrew Wiggins is
somebody's gonna have to rebound on that team.
Is not listed for whatever reason. Yeah, I don't see him listed. We did like Josh Hart. You want to go Josh Hart?
Yeah, 10.5.
Yeah, 10.5 rebounds is the number. Okay.
You know that's my guy. I'm not going to go against him.
Yeah. And then let's throw in one more.
Do you want to go? Do they have Sexton?
Oh yeah, we forgot about Sexton. Yeah, they have him at 23.5 points. You want to do that?
I don't mind that.
Okay.
I will do that.
Yeah. All right. So our entry here for tonight, it's going to be Pat Beverly, lower 10.5 points, Josh Hart, higher 10.5 rebounds, and then Colin Sexton, higher 23.5 points. That $10 entry will get you a return of $60 if all three of those do, in fact, get to the winning side on those 3-player entries. Again, Colin Sexton, higher 23.5 points, Josh Hart, higher 10.5 rebounds, and Pat Bev, lower 10.5 points. $10 gets you a $60 payout if all three of those, in fact, get to the winning side of things. All right, that is going to do it for this edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast. Close to an hour 40 in the books. Scott, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
No, I'll be back once again for the NBA show tomorrow with Terrell. I'll be on the MLB show later. Every time I'm on NBA Twitter, I lose brain cells. I'll end it on that note. It's a miserable place, NBA Twitter. It's absolutely terrible.
Make sure you follow Scott on Twitter at Reichel Radio. You can follow me there as well at SportsNerd824. More importantly, make sure to follow us on Twitter as well at SGPN NBA. You can subscribe to the NBA Gambling Podcast YouTube channel as well. Do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button on your way out. And like Scott said, we'll be back tomorrow with Terrell and Scott, same time, same place, to go over the Wednesday schedule. Till then, good luck with your bets here tonight. Let's break these books off and let it ride.